In a Game Informer article penned by Wesley LeBlanc entitled Breaking Down Dragon Age, the Veilguards, Classes and Factions, we get a skosh more info on Dave. The article tells us that after doing a whole bunch of customization on Rook's body, Rook being the PC, we get to choose our class. I do want to point out that almost every article and anything you ever hear is they talk about customizing your character's body. You don't hear about the cool faces and hairs. Yes, at one point, Epler, the creative director for this project at BioWare, did mention how they had really cool hair physics and individual hair animations, but I do find it curious how they don't talk about how you can make your character's face. We hear all about the body sliders, bulge sliders, butt sliders, and things like that. A whole lot of stuff that, quite frankly, I don't care about, and that, if I'm being completely honest, tend to lean this game in a direction that I'm not particularly thrilled with. Do not get me wrong. I can spend hours in a character creator. That's every subsequent character that I create. But there are just some things I'm not really interested in customizing because they don't have any bearing on the story, or at least they shouldn't. But it's not like Cyberpunk 2077 and Baldur's Gate 3 didn't do some of this already. Still, I would rather a developer work on more story, more dialogue, and more choices based off of my character's actions and specializations and attributes than worrying about package size in my pants. But I digress. Let's get back to the article. You can choose Rogue, Mage, and Warrior. As a rogue, you can be a duelist. There's your dual-wield character. You can be a saboteur, which uses tricks and traps. No real info on how that works. Or a Veil Ranger. That's your ranged character. Why they have to put Veil in front of it? Is it doing something special that other rangers wouldn't be doing? Then again, maybe it's just not cool enough saying a ranger. With all of this frenetic gameplay, I wonder how useful the tricks and traps will be, at least in the beginning of the game. Now, if you want to be a mage, want to be a necromancer, choose the Death Caller specialization. Want to freeze 'em, burn 'em, and shock 'em? Take the Evoker. And if you can't get enough melee, take Spellblade. It does not seem that you can do healing. Let's not forget, this is an action game. Fast-paced combat. We just need to find green glowing jugs, break them, and drink whatever's inside. As a side note, there's no mention of the Tower or the Templars. Finally, you just gotta be a warrior? Cool. You can be a Reaper. Interesting callback to Dragon Age Origins, as you could be a Reaver. And much like that specialization, you're going to use your life force to imbue yourself with special abilities, with apparently the risk of death. If that's not your thing, try a Slayer and swing around a giant two-handed sword. We haven't seen it, but I'm guessing whatever two-handed weapon you have is a little unrealistic. That's just the vibe this game gives off. Finally, you can be a champion, a tactical defense fighter, whatever the heck that means. But don't worry, you can be like Captain America and throw your shield at people. Interesting note in the article, these class specializations don't mean anything in the beginning of the game. As your next to last step, you get to choose your faction. Whoever's in your party with that faction will naturally want to help you. Your choice of faction will determine your backstory, how you met Varric, and why you're traveling with him. So that seems to make the bar fight in the reveal trailer a little stupid, as you already know Varric, and you're already there with him. You can choose to be a Grey Warden, though you're never going to be as cool as that Origins Warden. Never. You can fulfill your dream of being an Antivan Crow. New to the games are the Morn Watch, the Shadow Dragons, Lords of Fortune, and finally the Veil Jumpers. Apologies to all of the comic lovers out there, but this does not feel like Dragon Age. It feels like someone got a hold of it and is trying to hip it up, make it for the cool kids. I thought it was just fine the way it was. It seems to have lost some of its groundedness, and that's just from all the gnarly names they're giving everything. And we learn that the faction you choose will determine your casual wear. So it looks like BioWare's taken yet more choice away from the player. And God, let's just hope you don't run around in some idiotic pajamas like an Inquisition. Moving on, each faction gives you 3 distinct traits. The examples cited are the Lords of Fortune. You get extra reputation with this faction. I would think you might get that with all of them. You get the ability to take down mercenaries easier, and you can perform takedowns with less effort. I'm guessing that means you're going to expend less of that meter underneath those paltry 3 ability diamonds you have at the bottom middle of the screen. Next, BioWare tells us that factions are not only the folks you have in your party as companions, but special NPCs you'll be dealing with that help put a face to that faction. And Epler emphasized that this is not just you. You need your faction to help take down the threats. They really are putting a big focus on those companions. And while that seems fine, as there certainly was lots of focus on the companions and dialogue in Origins and DA2 and in Inquisition, I get the distinct feeling that things are pulling away from Rook. Gonna have to start being derogatory toward that name like I am Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2's Fire. Why do I have to have a weird name? And lastly, they told us the Mirror of Transformation at our Honeycomb hideout, the lighthouse, is how we can change our appearance. 'Cause maybe that bulge just doesn't show up well enough when you're running through those streets. And who knows, maybe baby just don't got enough back. Or you realize you made the ugliest thing that could ever be made and desperately need to change it. A curious omission are things like strength, magic, dexterity, all of those attributes you would normally assign in a D&D game. They weren't there in Inquisition. Lord knows they barely were of any value in DA2. Still, I miss those. Now I realize I'm being pretty flip and a little harsh on this game. BioWare has a really bad habit of terrible marketing. We all remember Dragon Age Origins with Marilyn Manson's New Shit. How somebody let that become your marketing material, I don't know. Not only did it not fit tonally, somebody clearly hadn't listened to those lyrics to realize how it was parodying what they were actually trying to do. But the original DA trailer and the DA2 trailers captured the tone of the story and of the Dragon Age world. If the trailers and the gameplay they've shown so far are accurate, this is neither going to look like, feel like, or play like a Dragon Age game. But who knows? I could be, and I hope I'm completely wrong about this. I really want one of these games these days to jump out and surprise me. So what do you think? Has this grabbed you by the body sliders and said, buy me? Leave us a comment below. And remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.